Welcome back to Motivational Wealth. You know, it's amazing how often the principles of building a solid financial life can really overlap with some pretty deep spiritual truths.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. When we talk about managing money well, making smart choices for the future, it's kind of like we're exercising this muscle,
Yeah.
this muscle for making intentional decisions about what really matters.
It's like we're training ourselves to focus on the things that have lasting value, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you look at it through the lens of faith, through the teachings of Jesus, you start to see those same ideas reflected back at you.
Oh, yeah. This idea of storing up treasures in heaven, that totally connects with this whole idea of building wealth, but not just in a financial
You
sense.
got it's about aligning our actions with our deepest values, whether that's in how we handle our money or how we live out our faith.
Mhm.
And the sources we're diving into today, especially Paula Pant's thoughts on the most powerful way to think about money, they really highlight that connection.
They really do. So, for our listeners who are joining us for this deep dive, we're going to explore how Paula's approach to financial well being can offer some really powerful insights, not just for building wealth, but also for cultivating that deeper spiritual kind of abundance.
Because, at the end of the day, both journeys are about aligning our choices with what we truly value,
Okay.
with what we believe will bring us lasting fulfillment.
Absolutely. And speaking of values, Paula really stresses this idea of trade offs, this unavoidable reality that we can't have everything we want.
She does. She has this really catchy line, you can afford anything, but not everything. Simple, but it really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It kind of forces us to face that, yeah, we got to make choices. Like every decision we make means saying yes to one thing, but also saying no to something else.
Exactly. Whether it's deciding to save for a down payment or taking that big vacation or, even how we spend our time and energy, every choice has an opportunity cost.
Oh, for sure. I mean, think about it. Even in our spiritual lives, we're constantly making these trade offs. Maybe we choose to spend an evening volunteering instead of watching TV.
Or we dedicate time to prayer and reflection instead of, I don't know, scrolling through social media.
Right.
These choices might seem small, but they add up over time.
They really do. They shape who we are and what we prioritize, both in our finances and in our spiritual walk.
And what's interesting is that Paula observes that so many people jump right into the nitty-gritty of money management, the budgeting apps, the investment
Yeah,
strategies.
the how-to stuff.
Exactly. But without really taking the time to figure out the why, the deeper principles that should be driving those decisions.
She uses a great analogy to illustrate this. She talks about a tree, right?
Right. She says the specific financial products or tactics, those are like the leaves. They're what you see first, but they're totally dependent on this hidden, deeper structure.
So if you want to build a truly strong financial life, you got to go deeper than just the leaves. You got to get
Oh.
to the roots.
And those roots, she says, those are our values, our core beliefs about what matters most, what kind of life we want to live.
I love that. So the values are the roots, and then from those grows the trunk, which is our life philosophy, right?
It's like the guiding principle for how we want to live. And then from that trunk, we get the branches, which represent our broader strategies for achieving our goals.
And finally, the leaves. Those are the specific tactics we use, the day-to-day actions we take.
And this analogy, it's not just about money, right? Think about how it applies to our spiritual lives, too.
Oh, totally. Like our faith, our relationship with God, those are the roots, right?
Exactly. And from those roots, from those core beliefs, grows our spiritual philosophy, our understanding of the world,
Hmm.
and our place in it.
And then that guides the way we live out our faith, how we spend our time, how we treat others, how we use our gifts.
And I think Paula's point is that if we're just focusing on the leaves, on the latest trends or quick fixes, without having that solid foundation of values of roots and trunk, we're going to end up feeling kind of lost and unfulfilled, both financially and spiritually.
Yeah, like we're just chasing after the wind, right?
Exactly. Now, another key point Paula makes is about financial independence.
Mhm.
She kind of flips the script on how we usually think about it.
How so?
Well, instead of seeing it as this distant retirement goal, she frames it as something that can bring us freedom and opportunity right now.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, she says, when you have enough passive income to cover your basic expenses, it opens up all these possibilities, right?
You can choose work that you're passionate about, spend more time with loved ones, give back to your community.
Exactly. It's about creating a life where you're not just surviving, but truly thriving. And when you consider the freedom we find through faith, through salvation, there's a beautiful parallel there too, isn't there?
There really is. It's like that freedom from sin and its consequences. It's not just some future reward, it's something that can transform our lives today.
It gives us a new perspective, a new sense of purpose and meaning. And that allows us to live more fully, more authentically right now.
And I think that sense of purpose, that alignment with our values, it's essential for both financial and spiritual well-being.
Totally. And Paula breaks down the journey to financial independence into these three core steps. Grow the gap, invest the gap, and repeat.
Okay, so grow the gap. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it's about increasing the difference between your income and your expenses. Basically, it's about saving more money.
Makes sense. But how do we apply that to our spiritual lives? It's not like we're earning a paycheck in the traditional sense,
Right.
right?
And maybe it's about increasing our spiritual income, so to speak.
I like that. So what would that look like?
Well, maybe it's about spending more time in prayer and reflection, studying scripture, being more intentional about serving others, things that nourish our souls and bring us closer to God.
At the same time, we might be more mindful of our spiritual spending, so to speak, the things that distract us from our faith, from our values.
Exactly. The things that drain our spiritual energy and leave us feeling empty. And then the second step, invest the gap. In financial terms, it's about putting those savings to work.
So investing in assets that will generate income in the future.
Right. But in a spiritual sense, maybe it's about investing in our relationship with God.
Through prayer, through acts of service, through building community with other believers.
Exactly. It's about making choices that will yield lasting, eternal rewards. And then the final step, repeat. Well, that's just a reminder that both financial and spiritual growth are ongoing journeys.
They require consistent effort, right?
Absolutely. It's not about reaching some finish line and then coasting.
Hmm.
It's about showing up each day, making intentional choices that align with our values and our overall life philosophy.
Paula also talks about how we often let fear hold us back from pursuing financial independence, and I think that's true in our spiritual lives, too.
Oh, yeah. Fear can be so paralyzing. It can keep us from taking risks, from stepping out in faith, from sharing our beliefs with others.
But Paula suggests that instead of letting fear control us, we can use it as a motivator.
Yeah, to make wise and thoughtful decisions, to build a life that's grounded in something deeper than just our fleeting desires.
And I think that's where our faith comes in, having that strong foundation in God, knowing that we're loved and supported no matter what. It gives us a sense of courage and peace, even when things are uncertain.
Like an anchor, right? It keeps us steady in the storms of life.
So as you're thinking about your financial goals, about building that richer life, I encourage you to also consider how those same principles apply to your spiritual journey.
What are your core values? How are they shaping your choices, both with your money and with your time and energy?
And how can you invest in those things that will bring you lasting fulfillment, both in this life and in the life to come?
These are the questions that really matter, aren't they?
They really are. And we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought, some motivation to not only build wealth in a financial sense, but also to cultivate that deeper spiritual kind of abundance that comes from living a life aligned with our deepest values and our faith.
And of course, we want to thank all our listeners for subscribing to Motivational Wealth.
We're so grateful for your support. It means the world to us. And we'll be back next time with more insights and motivation to help you build a richer life in every sense of the word.
Until then, take care.